Hey everybody, I'm Dan McClellan. I'm a scholar of the Bible and religion. The fit today is Frank Miller's 2022 variant cover for the relaunched Fantastic Four series. Let's take a look at a video.
I think what you mean to say here is that most non-Christian Bible scholars make ridiculous and unfounded claims about the Bible.
So of the two statements in this clip, the comment by Keith Wilson is far closer to the truth. This is somebody who is not a scholar of the Bible, does not participate in the academy, is clearly not very well informed about the long-standing and well-founded consensuses of the academy, and is just using rhetoric and fallacy, such as the no true Scotsman fallacy, here in its no true Christian as well as in its no true scholar form, to just dismiss what is actually very well-founded based on nothing other than petty and naive dogmatism.
One of my favorites is they talk about that talking snake in the Garden of Eden being just a talking snake because the idea of Satan hadn't emerged until maybe just a few hundred years before Jesus was born.
Yes, it is the long-standing and overwhelming academic consensus that in the Hebrew Bible, the word Satan overwhelmingly is used to refer to one who takes a position in opposition to another. So even the angel of the Lord is referred to as functioning as a Satan in Numbers 22. The notion of a figure named Satan is an innovation of Greco-Roman period Judaism, which is then more fully fleshed out in the New Testament and more so within early Christianity. And if you would like the data that convinced the overwhelming majority of scholars on this, a couple of recent publications are Archie Wright's book, Satan and the Problem of Evil, From the Bible to the Early Church Fathers, and then also Ryan Stokes's book, The Satan, How God's Executioner Became the Enemy. You can also look at my podcast, the Data Over Dogma podcast. I believe it's episode number 18 that has a discussion of the development of the concept of Satan. And I've also taught a 1-hour online class on Satan and the Bible, which, if you're interested, is available at mcclellan.org.
Well, if they bothered to actually read anything from ancient civilizations, they would know that according to the Bible, the original audience for Genesis was a bunch of Egyptian refugees who were out there in about the year 1200 BC.
So here this creator is presupposing Mosaic authorship of the Pentateuch, presupposing the historicity of the Pentateuch, presupposing that the Pentateuch was written following Israel's exodus from Egypt. And all of these presuppositions directly conflict with the long-standing and overwhelming academic consensus. The bigger problem, however, is that the Hebrew word Satan only occurs twice in all of the Pentateuch. And both occurrences are in Numbers 22, where it says the angel of the Lord came out as a Satan. So there's no reference to an individual named Satan anywhere in any text that, even according to traditional belief, was composed by or existed by the time of the life of Moses. So the attempt to argue that we can connect the name Satan with the serpent from the Garden of Eden isn't going to work.
And how would an Egyptian in 1200 BC have understood a talking snake in the Garden of Eden? Go look up Apep. Apep was a snake chaos deity in Egyptian religion who was always fighting against the authority of Ra and trying to bring chaos into the world. So, scholars.
So Apep is better known to scholars by the later Greek name Apophis, and this was one of two main kind of cosmic serpents in ancient Egyptian cosmology, the other being the world-encircling serpent Ouroboros. And Apophis represents the forces of chaos and the threat to the ordered creation. And so the main way that Apophis pops up is in this tradition about the sun deity Ra's solar bark, which goes to the underworld every night and must do battle with Apophis and defeat Apophis in order for the sun to successfully rise the next morning. And so in that sense, Apophis pops up more regularly in discussions about the ancient Semitic combat myths, particularly the Neo-Babylonian fight between Marduk and Tiamat in Enuma Elish, which influences Genesis 1, the fight between Baal and Yam and Baal and Mot in the Ugaritic literature, and other related texts. And so you see scholars discussing the association of Apophis with creation, but particularly in association with Genesis 1. So it's discussed at some length in this article from the 2013 book, Creation and Chaos. We also see it discussed in this discussion about creation. We see it discussed by Walton in his book, Genesis 1 as Ancient Cosmology. We also see it discussed, for instance, by Amsalag, who has developed this theory of the earliest divine profile associated with Adonai being associated with volcanoes, metallurgy, and serpents. So Nissim discusses that as well. We also see a discussion in this volume of the relationship of Apophis to the evil eye and ritual practices in ancient Southwest Asia. But if you want the best discussion of the association of Apophis to biblical concepts of serpents, I would recommend the DDD's entry, which begins here, and then here is the second page, here is the third page, and here is the fourth page. So as you can see, scholars are well aware of Apophis and well aware of the relationship of Apophis to early creation accounts. There's not really a relationship between the serpent in the Garden of Eden and Apophis. Apophis is related to the combat myth, but the serpent in the Garden of Eden is more of a trickster figure. And so has relationships to other conceptualizations of the serpent as crafty, as associated with eternal life, as associated with wisdom, even as associated with healing. So this creator isn't really aware of the scholarship. This creator is trying to draw connections where there aren't really connections to draw. And this creator is also entirely ignoring that none of this in any way, shape, or form whatsoever actually identifies the serpent as Satan. Like, the whole point is that Satan was developed when this text had been composed. But then this creator is just saying, oh, the serpent is Apophis, but Apophis is not Satan. And there's not really a connection between the representation of Apophis in the Egyptian literature and the way that Satan would develop when they finally become their own character in the Greco-Roman period. So the whole argument falls apart, and this creator is just naively trying to assert their dogmatism.